On Chiefs, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. You're going to see a different location. It's a little bit different thing today as we get going, as Chiefs training camp has begun, rookies, quarterbacks, etc. We've got some moves here, and we've got some guys that are going to be making an impact here as they get ready for veterans reporting on Wednesday. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Hey, you emptied the van, huh?
I did. Okay, so just so everybody knows, I moved. So you were looking at my new recording studio. The problem is, and this is why Dan was on yesterday, and Ryan, thank you for getting him. Yeah, I'm still trying to unpack and get ready. So it's going to be a work in process. The video is not going to be great today. I'm sorry about that. It will be better. Hopefully tomorrow I can get everything set up the way it needs to be. I'm just not there right now. I had a little bit of an issue with trying to find where stuff went.
I know that feeling. I have moved as well. And, every Chief on the roster is going through that right now as they pack everything into bags.
Yes, they are.
Bags, boxes, or whatever to try to get up to St. Joe and hit those dorms, man. So you picked the right weekend, I think, to pull this off.
Yeah, well, and it was just storming like crazy here just a couple minutes ago, so I'm glad that stopped. But the nice thing about the studio, it may not sound great right now. I think I'll be able to take care of that, but I have no windows, so the lighting will end up being great when I get my lighting set up the way I want it. So it's going to look a lot better, and it's going to be better. So I'm excited about that. It's like I said, a work in process.
It always is, right? And it's going to keep coming. But, folks, yep. The new studio, we might as well put it this way, since they're sponsoring the show today. The new studio is brought to you by rockauto.com, reliably low prices, and everything your car will need. Go check them out at rockauto.com. Maybe we'll get a logo across the back or something. I don't know.
Thank you for paying for my studio, Rock Auto. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, just like everybody moving in there up to St. Joe, a number of guys have been up there for the rookies, the quarterbacks, a couple of veterans. Yesterday, we talked about Juan Thornhill, DeAndre Baker coming out and saying, that Juan feels he's 100% and DeAndre feels he's close. I thought that was, we don't need to go deep into it because we spent a lot of time, but you got to be pretty positive about those two, whether it's accurate or not. It's got to be pretty positive, right?
So for me, the Juan Thornhill news is bigger than the DeAndre Baker news. And that's because I don't think we saw Juan Thornhill close to what I thought he was going to be last year. And I think it's really because of the ACL. And they always say it takes a year to get over those. So I'm really excited to see what Thornhill puts in this year. I do think that he and Matthew are going to be in a very, very fun tandem to watch.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about those two, though, is that I'm a little disappointed because I expected Kansas City to have a contract for Matthew by this time, and it hasn't happened.
Well, he's not on a practice field yet. I still think he might sign it on the way out to the first practice he's involved in. So.
A la Jamal Charles.
Yeah. That's kind of like what's been in the back of my head. So
sorry, I had a flat tire on the way, and yeah,
right. Well, it's a process, and everybody's going through it. There's a couple of guys who aren't going to go through it though. We did get some news on Monday that 3 transactions. The first being James Winchester has gone on the COVID list. This is kind of like the worst case scenario for any particular player. I think he's going to be fine, but this is the situation that I think is revolving around what the NFL is doing with vaccinations, and the Chiefs have a really high rate, including Winchester. He's been vaccinated, and yet he's gotten it again. It does happen. The good thing about once you're vaccinated, if you do get it, it generally really, really nullifies a lot of the symptoms. So I hopefully won't be the drain that we saw from some guys that got it last year, came back and still competed. He's on the list for now. I would expect that he's back by week 1.
Yeah, I bet he's back by the middle of camp and maybe even back by week 1 of preseason, honestly, because that's still a couple of weeks away. So I would expect that he's going to be coming off that rather quickly. But it does go to show you that we're not through COVID, and it's going to be an interesting season because you're going to be in a situation where you've got certain players that will be vaccinated, certain players that won't. And the players that are vaccinated and they come down with COVID and that causes games to be changed, how do they deal with that? That hasn't been specified yet, but it is something they're going to have to deal with.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult. The good thing is, though, if you are vaccinated, like, again, hopefully that should shorten the duration of everything, shorten the symptom severity. And then, I'm guessing it's still a 2-week timeline. We don't have the specifics on what the protocol is going to be post like confirmation. But last year it was a 5-day quarantine, right? Like one-on-one quarantine. And then I think it was 14 days away from the team. And then they came back. So we'll see if that remains the same. You're right. We don't have specifics on it, but it's something it's very topical right now. And for the Chiefs, I think it puts a little bit extra stress on the holder in particular. I don't think Butker's going to be affected by it personally, but I
disagree, actually.
Do you? Okay.
I do, because it's all a rhythm type scenario.
Yeah.
And the ball's going to be coming back at a different speed. And, you may say that that's not going to matter. Well, that's the reason Winchester won the job over, I can't remember the guy that he was competing against 4 or 5 years ago. Gafford, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Look at me dropping my Chiefs knowledge.
Could be.
So that's the reason he won the job, is because his snap was quicker. The speed really made a difference. And so I don't think it's going to be a huge deal for Butker as long as Winchester's back by the beginning of the season. But I do think it changes the game a little bit, because you're going to have to worry about maybe, half second in the kicking game can make a ton of difference.
Yeah. And it's that rhythm. It's making sure that he's comfortable and in the stroke. And that's really what it all comes down to. So I get your point. It's going to be a change. They did make a signing. I think we'll get into that when we come back. I think he'll be back. I won't bet against him making it to week 1. But if I was gonna, I would have to put that action over at Bet Online, the fastest, easiest way for you to get your sports action up and in and on the line. Whether it's baseball, NHL, NBA, or now the very start of the NFL season. Pretty excited about it, finally, right? Wherever it is, just use your mobile device, you can use your phone, whatever, and get over all the sporting information, all the news, all the sign-up bonuses. Don't sit on the sidelines. This is your chance. Go over to betonline.ag and get 50% on your bonus deposit. So you put $100 in, they give you $50 on top of it. It's just for this promo code Locked On. You can use it at betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. That code will get you there. So check out betonline.ag. Now, in the week,
not to make fun of your advertisement there, but when you keep saying "on the line," I have to chuckle, because it reminds me. Have you ever seen the movie The Interns?
No.
With like Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
On the line. I'm sorry, it just made me crack up. I just was sitting here cracking up. Thank you, Bet Online. I appreciate your sponsorship as well. Ryan saying "on the line." It's just funny. So anyway,
I've done stranger things, that's for sure. I'm going to call myself Vince in that scenario, though. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I'm Vince, because I'm a lot taller than you, short guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it is what it is.
That's true.
But putting your risk on the line, there you go. It's always a change. They did make a signing, as we told you about Winchester in the previous segment. They brought in Drew Scott, formerly the Dallas Cowboys, guy with experience. Not too worried about that. I don't know if it's something that we're going to have to rely to him to actually produce in a ball game. Certainly a preseason win, but I'm talking about a regular season game. But it's definitely a change. And I think that's something, it's an easy storyline to take a look at when camp first opens, because especially with the acclimation period, it's not going to be a lot of hitting and stuff like that right off the bat, but you'll be able to watch the specialists just like it were any day of the year for them.
Yep. Yeah, and then they also made a move, and they put Chris, is it Finke or Fink? I'm not sure which one it is. Okay, yes on both. Okay. Thank you, sir. That's very helpful.
I'm here to help.
Yeah. You're here for something. Anyway, they released him, or they put him on. Well, actually, I guess they waived him with an injury clause. So I would imagine he's going to end up on the injured reserve, would be my guess.
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't get specifics of what the injury is.
But it's obviously long term.
Just yesterday. Yeah. I mean, he had a couple of snags. Jody Fortson went down, I think it was Saturday, but came back that practice. Fink went down, did not come back, and obviously it's got to be a bit more difficult there.
Would expect that they're going to have a waiver, or not a waiver, but at some point they'll have an injury settlement, would be my guess.
Yeah. Herbie TOP, folks of the Star, did say that he rode up the hill on the cart, so he was not under his own power. Front seat, not elevated, so it's not severe. I think that could be all revolving, like practice squad edition later down the line or something like that too, if they like what they saw from him to this point.
Yeah, and honestly, the one thing that we don't know about is how are they going to deal with injured reserve this year? Because they could put him on injured reserve and possibly, if they don't have any kind of limits on how many people you can bring back, they could bring it back off injured reserve. I don't know how all that's going to work. So interested to see how that comes out. We don't have information on that yet at this point.
Yeah, and I am thinking we're going to get an onslaught of things about what the rules are specifically going to be here pretty quickly, but right now we don't have them. And that's all to say that these are fluid situations as everybody's getting ready to arrive, getting in there. I'm glad. I mean, you hate to see anybody go down, but you're glad that it's not somebody that the Chiefs were counting on in their rookie season or in this UDFA group or anything like that. Another little tidbit, I guess, Chiefs PR finally caught up to the coaching staff, and Jody Fortson is actually listed as a tight end again. He looks a little bit thicker to me. We're going to see what happens. Like we said, he went down over the weekend, but came right back in. So I think he's going to be okay. So,
very interesting to see what he can do this year if he's going to be able to make it, because this is his opportunity if he's going to.
I agree. And I won't rule out a stint on the practice squad for him, and maybe he can rotate up. Let's see where he's going. I do like him. He looks a little bit thicker, a little bit stronger, a little bit more grown into the tight end role. So maybe all this move stuff that we're going to see for Noah Gray, maybe there's some spillover there. Maybe there's something that accentuates his skill set. I don't know.
It would be nice for them to be able to use a guy like him for his size and his speed. If they can do something and use him more in the red zone and use him in that role, I think that would be very beneficial. Just because they don't really have that guy that has that. I mean, Kelsey's tall, but he's not Fortson size. So, yeah.
There's always something. I think Blake Bell's probably still out front of that. We'll see when everybody arrives. And we're actually not going to see everybody arrive. Evidently, the beat reporters are not going to be covering the arrivals like they normally do. So I think that will cushion the blow of not having Sherm report to camp this year. So,
can you see the tear rolling down my chin?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I know. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, we're going to be okay. But
I'm curious, is Burton going to show up and do anything special? But obviously it's not going to matter at this point because nobody's going to cover it. So
there's a tree fall in the woods if no one's there to hear it. That's
right.
Yeah, I got nothing. But
I will say I did like if you don't follow Matt Derrick yet, I don't know what you're doing, but you should go follow him on Twitter because he had a great line on Pete and Nate today.
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones from up there. Those guys are in like early camp form already. Not to mention dressing alike, but and EB taking handoffs at rookie camp. That's interesting. For those Mizzou fans, you definitely want to check out Matt's timeline. He can fix some things up for you that maybe repair some old scars. I don't know. And if you do need to do repairs today, we're brought to you by Rock Auto. Like we said earlier, you can save time and money by going over there and getting everything you need for your vehicle, whether it's 30, 50, or 100% off. You can find what you need, and you don't have to go to a brick and mortar store that may not have the parts that you're looking for. It's a family business. It's been in business for 20 years, and all their prices are consistently low for every single customer, no matter what they do for a living or where they're coming from. So go check out their entire lineup for your vehicle. Explore their website, put the parts that you need in their cart. And when you do, go to rockauto.com and get those parts in there. And when you do, use Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. And that'll let them know that we sent you over there. They have amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car or truck is ever going to need. Check out rockauto.com. So
you bring up college football in Mizzou. I have to just say, since we haven't really talked, Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12.
Okay, we're gonna go there, huh?
I just wanted to say, I just think we ought to mention that, that's going to be a big deal. I don't think it's going to have a huge effect, obviously, on the Chiefs for this year. Not probably going to have any effect on them for the next couple of years, but I do think it will affect them in the future because you're looking at a conference of the SEC being just absolutely filthy ridiculous when it comes to college football.
And it's going to have a mini playoff within its. If they go over there, it's 16 teams then, right?
Yep.
We're talking an East and a West, and you're going to have a playoff to get into the playoff. Mm-hmm. I understand the people that argue about not getting into the championship with a Big 12 bid. This could be the end of the Big 12. And somebody who when I was involved, we were still the Big 8. So it's definitely been a process. This could be the dissolution of that entire thing. You could see a couple teams go to the Pac-12 and a couple teams go to the Big 10. And obviously these two going to the SEC. Like, there could be a complete dissolution of this conference. It's going to be interesting to watch. For a scouting perspective for the Chiefs, it's going to make things, I think, maybe a little bit easier in terms of, I think you'll have a pair of guys that are covering the SEC at this point, because 16 teams would just be unruly for a scouting department.
But again, that can't happen until 2024, 2025. So it's down the road, but I just want to mention it because it is a huge story.
There are penalties to leave early. I won't be surprised.
Well, and honestly, at this point, I've seen people starting to ask, well, if you already know that they're going to leave, why not just let them out and just get it over with?
Right. Rip that Band-Aid off.
Yep.
And
the teams that want to be here. So let's get back to camp, though, because that's on me, and I apologize, but I do think it's a huge story, and I do think it affects Kansas City down the road. And I do like what you said about the two scouts being the SEC, because I think you're going to need them. But I also think it's going to make players better, because they're going to be playing against top-tier teams almost all the time if they're in the SEC. So that'll be fun. So the other thing that happened in camp was Patrick Mahomes and Chad Henne didn't practice. But this isn't anything really new.
No. Last day of rookie camp, you let the vets off. This happens every year, so that nobody risks anything on a day like that.
Although it's kind of funny, Mahomes is that guy now, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think from what Matt said as well, it was very short practice. Again, good. Get it out there. Andy looks like he's moving a little gingerly. He looks like he's wearing some compression socks. I don't know if he had another procedure in the offseason. Does look a little lighter, though, so good for Andy Reid. But I think any chance you get to let the players have a little bit extra rest in a situation like that where you're not really getting much done, and for Andy Reid himself, I think that's a plus.
Yep. And I'm glad that they're giving those guys the time off. And we didn't really even talk about DeAndre Baker earlier, but I do want to mention this. DeAndre Baker has an opportunity to play a massive role on this team this year.
Yeah.
If he is healthy, he has the ability, in my opinion, to come in and start at the corner position. And who knows who that's going to be in place of.
I know who that's going to be in place of. Do you? What are you trying to say?
Well, I would expect that it's going to be in place of Ward, but I'm not 100% sold on that, so we'll see.
I think the team is pretty happy with Ward. He would have to, I think, take a step back. Even if he played at last year's level, I don't think they're going to disrupt that just because of experience.
And I don't disagree with that, but the problem is as you talked about earlier, Ward doesn't travel. So how do you make all three of those guys fit on the field at the same time? I'm not saying you can't, but or do you really want Snead to be your corner, your nickel? I don't think you do, but it's hard to say.
It is. I mean, and I think the biggest thing is Spags seems to have a lot of faith in Snead, and the traveling is the thing. Is you can't just have one. You got to have a counterpart at the very least. So it is definitely going to be something that they are codependent on, whether they can make that kind of change or not. But
and it could be fitting, and that's fine if it's fitting. Honestly, fitting as a fourth corner, I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's a Pro Bowl player by any means. That's not what I'm saying. But as a fourth corner, I think that's a great young fourth corner for you.
I completely agree. If you have three guys that can play better than Fenton, then you're doing pretty good.
Yep.
And you're not Steven Nelson, who ended up signing in Philadelphia, folks. So Steven Nelson is not coming back. I know some of you actually were hopeful. I don't know.
4 void years his contract.
Right.
God, sorry. I have to laugh because I'm just sitting here going, he got a $4 million deal. Or no, was it Melvin Ingram? One of the two got a deal, and it had like 3 or 4 void years. And you're just sitting there going, I know you're tied against the cap, but give me a break.
It's going to hurt later. I mean, maybe at those dollar amounts
Definitely.
it won't, but it depends on the impact. So with the Chiefs making a couple of moves that they had to make, not anything really discretionary here, that we have an idea who's going to be around and available for camp when we get started. And we should see those guys in just a day or two.
Yeah, and I have to say this really quick because it broke also today. It doesn't sound like Aaron Rodgers will be moving, so it sounds like he will continue to be in Green Bay, so that's not going to be an issue in the Broncos. I did hear that he does not want to be in Las Vegas, so that's probably out in 2022. It sounds like he wants to go to a place with a defense. That's definitely not Vegas. So there's that. And then you have Deshaun Watson, who it sounds like could be traded as well, but that's kind of up in the air as to where he could go.
Well, from what I read, it is now more likely that he is getting traded. And I do think that could be a Las Vegas destination.
Man, go ahead and trade him to Vegas, because then if that happens, then you know how that's going to end up.
I mean, then there's still room for Rodgers in 22 in Denver, right? And then there's no argument that this is the best quarterback division in football.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, if Watson goes to Las Vegas, I'll be very surprised. But I guess I won't be shocked, but I will be very surprised because I just can't see the Raiders making that move. I can see them wanting to make that move, but I can't see them getting it done. They don't have the draft picks. It sounds like they want 3 first-round draft picks for Watson.
Yeah. It's a tall order no matter who you are. I don't know who's going to pull the trigger on that. I'm guessing it comes in under that, and it does get done. It doesn't sound like there's much chance of Deshaun Watson being in Houston, but it's going to be Bill, that's for sure.
Well, it sounds like Miami and Philadelphia have the trade capital to do it. The question is one of them going to be willing to give it up?
Yeah.
So,
well, we will let you know when we know. We should be hearing a little bit more about that. I think news will pick up here rather quickly. We'll be back with you tomorrow as we get ready for the veterans showing up. We'll have Matt here later on Thursday, and we'll have everything that you need to know about your Kansas City Chiefs as they get ready for training camp to get into full swing. Make sure that you either like, sub, or hit the bell over on YouTube. Thank you all. We hit the 1,000 subscribers we were looking for before camp by the hair of our chinny chin chin. We appreciate that, and keep spreading the word. You can also always subscribe to us on Spotify, Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you for your time today and listening and watching, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.